I realised I had alopecia when I was about 20. I lost my dad 20 years ago, and it was about 3 or 4 months later, and I noticed I had these small patches in my head. At first I didn't think anything of it, and then they actually got bigger. So I went to get a haircut, and the hairdresser told me I had alopecia.
Alopecia is a medical condition where someone loses either part or all of their hair. Okay, this is the follicle where the hair grows out of and where the hair loss occurs. These are the muscles which decide whether or not the hair is upright, and as you can see here, there's no hair growing out of the follicle.
Alison found I had alopecia when I went to get my hair done. She tends to cover up my bald patch, which helps.
They've got it because, as I say, it's becoming more common. A lot of people don't know what they're dealing with until they speak to a hairdresser, which they understand more. I'd advise them to go to the doctors and see what treatment that they'd need, also to try and keep themselves calm instead of stressed, because that can make it worse.
Hairdresser helped. They just told you that you had it, and they told you that there was nothing they could do to go to your doctor.
A doctor would examine the scalp and look for lesions, scarring, and the distribution of hair loss across the scalp.
And I was just so stressed out about it. I thought everybody could see the patches on my head. Every time I went out, I was paranoid. I used to lacquer my hair down, stick clips in the back, because I had 4 patches at the back of my head.
It's not as bad as it used to be a few years ago, which I've got a bit more confidence now.
Everyday problems were getting up, going to work, worrying in case anybody was looking behind me. I was paranoid if people were standing behind me at the bus stop, wondering if they could see my patches. I used to wear a hat at times. I really thought I was going to end up balding. I was only in my 20s at the time, and I thought I'd be wearing a wig for the rest of my life. It was only by going to the hospital and the treatment they gave and their reassurance that I wouldn't go balding.
It's caused by a lot of stress the majority of the time, also can be a trauma on the head.
Alopecia has many causes, the most common of which are a lack of iron in your diet, stress in your lifestyle, or as a result of chemotherapy due to cancer.
There's the different types of alopecia are alopecia, you have just small rings of alopecia, or you have another alopecia which it all joins together, or then you have a male alopecia.
Alopecia is normally treatable with a foam or a cream prescribed by a doctor. In some worst cases, however, it would need probably to be wearing a wig.
I really don't know whether it's genetic or not. I know in men it's genetic. If there's a bald man or a young man in the teenagers, 20 years old, if they lose their hair, they recede. It takes a long time. Sometimes it will take years to go. I was very fortunate. It actually grew back again after about 7 months with treatment from the hospital.
There are about 10 different types of alopecia with varying signs and symptoms. Viv suffered from alopecia areata, which is characterised by patches of hair loss all over the body.
And some people get grey patches at the back of the head, and they may be the natural colour all over. It brings every emotion that you could think possible. You'd cried, paranoid, stressful, angry as well. I was 20 and to lose my hair and to have these patches. But then when I went to the hospital, I realised just how lucky I was, because there were some young girls there my age that lost their hair completely, where I hadn't. Sometimes it takes 7 months, sometimes it can take 2 years, sometimes it'll never grow back, all depending what you've got and how much alopecia you have.